father was a Chinese diplomat in Washington from 1936 to 1942. Well, these are... When my father was a diplomat in Washington, Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill had an Atlantic meeting, and my father was at the meeting, so he got this ashtray as a souvenir. And then this is a cigarette tin from Shanghai. It's at least 1936. And Changzhou is famous for making these cones. And it's probably ivory, that's what the lady said. And this is bamboo. It's quite an old one. I've got some newer ones. It's either my father's or my mother's.
Okay.
These are signature seals. One is my mother's and one is my father's. So, my father's surname plus her surname and her. So he went in 1936, and then the Japanese took Shanghai. So after she graduated, she couldn't leave. So she ended up staying. She eventually escaped during 1941 because they lost touch, but the International Red Cross put them back in touch. If it wasn't for the Red Cross, I wouldn't be here.
I received this about 45 years ago from an old friend who came from England. She was a jeweller, and she gave me this. And this is Queen Victoria.
Wow.
That's Queen Victoria's signature
Right.
in 1877.
Right.
And one of the ladies in there just looked it up, and Queen Victoria in 1877 was proclaimed Empress of India. No, nobody knows anything about this.
Right.
You know, it's a mystery.
That is fantastic.
It belonged to my grandfather, who was an amazing collector. He had a huge art collection, enormous, and he used to collect a lot of miniatures. He travelled all over the world. This piece is a miniature, and it's by W. Stadler, and the lass in there doesn't know. She thinks it might be German, she thinks it's European, and it's a watercolour. So she's going to do a bit more research on it to see if she can find out what it is. I mean, it's not a valuable piece, but I mean, for me, it's beautiful. It reminds me of the Dutch masters that used to paint those scenes.
The genre paintings.
Well, the jug here is a Royal Dalton limited edition, and my father, I'm one of four girls, and my father got a Royal Dalton jug for each of us. Would have been in the 1930s. So that sits there, and we enjoy it. This one is a Picasso piece. When we lived in England, my father-in-law took my sister-in-law and me to the studio where they do, shall I turn it over and show you the other side? The Madura. This is Madura. This is on a lot of his work that he did down there in Vallauris. And so Pat had one and I had one, and my father-in-law thought it was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever seen. Which we loved it.
This book was given to me by my father-in-law, who must have bought it back in Sheffield, where he lived before coming to us. But for some reason or other, he decided to leave England after the war, and they were going to nationalise the steel business.
Right.
So being someone who had helped in the war considerably, he had made sufficient money to say, well, he'll bring his family up to Australia.
And did he set up his business here?
No, he just retired.
Okay.
This is a book which is quite unusual, Brown on Vulgar Errors, which is known a very well-known book, but it includes, for example, it doesn't deal with vocabulary or making that sort of thing. It's how the world works, and in there it sort of deals with whether it's correct or not correct that a badger bites off his testicles when he's bred enough. And this is examined, and people say, well, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And in 1650, it was what you would talk about in the pub. The surprising thing is the detail and the perfection. That this is a book done 1650. What's that? It's getting on for 400 years old.
Yeah.
There it is. And do we have time now to read this sort of material?